Her friends told her to leave me for a week, so I gave her something she didn't expect. When Lucas's wife left him for a week to teach him a lesson, under the influence of her friends, she never expected what he would do next. What began as a happy marriage slowly eroded under outside interference, ignored warnings, and unresolved tension. But when she walked out the door, thinking he'd come crawling, he did the last thing she ever saw coming. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit subscribe and settle in. Today's story is a personal one, and it's about how one decision changed everything. My name is Lucas. I never expected my marriage to fall apart over something so subtle, and yet so powerful. Influence. Not from an affair, not from abuse, but from a circle of friends that never had our best interest in mind. And when they finally convinced my wife to pack a bag and leave me for a week, just to teach me a lesson, I didn't panic. I didn't beg. I didn't even call. I simply did the one thing they never saw coming. Let me take you back. My wife, Elise, and I had been married for 7 years. But our story started long before that. We met through mutual friends, and for 3 years we dated long distance. We managed the distance with weekend flights, late-night calls, and daily texts. It made our bond feel invincible. We thought that surviving the space between us meant we could survive anything. But we were wrong. You see, love prepares you for commitment, for sacrifice, but it doesn't teach you how to live with someone. Not really. And when Elise finally moved in after the wedding, we were living together for the very first time. I had been living alone for almost a decade. I was used to my routines, waking up at a specific hour, brewing my coffee just right, total silence when I needed to work. Suddenly, I had to consider someone else in every single decision. It wasn't bad. It was different. But I adapted. I wanted her there. I loved her. I genuinely thought she felt the same. Elise had to give up a lot to be with me. She left her hometown and started over in my city. I respected that. So we worked as a team. I helped her look for job openings. I sent her listings while we sat on the couch in our tiny apartment, sipping wine and laughing about ridiculous job descriptions. Eventually, she landed a solid position at a local bank as a customer service representative. She loved it. She made new friends. She adjusted quickly, almost too quickly. I was proud of her. I encouraged her to build a life for herself outside of our marriage. I thought that's what healthy couples did. In the early years, we both agreed on holding off on children. We were career-driven, goal-oriented, and still figuring things out. We made a pact. 5 years. Save money. Travel. Grow. And we did that. She got promoted. When she was promoted to team leader of the bank's customer care division, I planned a special dinner. Her favorite restaurant, candlelight, the works. It was her night, and she deserved to feel celebrated. Between the main course and dessert, I gently said, I think we're in a good place. Maybe it's time to start thinking about having a child. She smiled. Then changed the subject. I let it go, it was her moment after all. But the weeks that followed told me that wasn't just a one-off. Every time I brought it up again, gently, respectfully, she'd shut it down. Now's not the time. Why ruin what we have? It's too soon. Too soon. We were 7 years in. First I thought it was pressure at work. Maybe stress. But as time passed, her tone became colder, more defensive. It stopped sounding like hesitation and started sounding like resentment. That was the first crack in the foundation. But the real fracture came the day I came home early from work. It was a random Tuesday. I didn't tell her I was coming home early. Just wanted to surprise her with some pastries from the shop near my office. When I opened the front door, I heard laughter. I walked in and found Elise sitting on the couch with 2 of her friends. One of them I recognized. A woman named Jenna who always gave me a weird vibe. The other was new. Said hello. They acknowledged me with a quick glance, nothing warm. I didn't want to interrupt their time, so I went to the bedroom and closed the door. But I could hear them laughing again. Only now the tone had shifted. Hushed voices, then louder ones. Curiosity got the better of me. I stepped out just in time to hear the words that changed everything. You need to leave for a while, one of them was saying. Just disappear for a week. Make him feel it. Teach him to stop pushing. Elise didn't argue. She nodded. She agreed. They were talking about me. That night, she told me she was going to visit her cousin out of town. Said she needed a break to clear her head. But I already knew the truth. It wasn't about space. It wasn't about her cousin. It was about power. Her friends had been in her ear for months, whispering poison, painting me as controlling, old-fashioned, just because I wanted to start a family. So I did the last thing they expected. I let her leave. No argument. No begging. I hugged her at the door, said, "Take the time you need." And the moment she walked out, packed up my things. Every single one. Cancelled the lease. The apartment was in my name. I had been the one covering most of the rent while she stacked up savings from her new job. I didn't leave a note. I didn't block her. I didn't post anything. I just vanished from our life. She came back a week later to an empty apartment. She called me. I didn't pick up. Texted me. "What are you doing?" I replied with 3 words. Lesson received. Goodbye. I never meant to eavesdrop. But the truth is, you don't have to press your ear to the door when the voices on the other side are loud, animated, and utterly unfiltered. And when the walls in your home are paper thin. First I tried to tune it out. I buried myself in a podcast, then a book, then silence. But eventually, curiosity got the better of me. One of the women, my wife's friend, was laughing as she bragged about finally blocking her second ex-husband. Her voice was thick with satisfaction as she ranted about how marriage was just a trap, a scam designed to keep women down. "I feel free now," she said. She repeated that part at least 3 times. Then the other one chimed in. Casually, as if confessing a secret but also wanting applause. She said she was still seeing a man, * a married man star. And with a smile in her voice, she explained that the wife knew / and couldn't do anything about it. "It's fate," she added. "The universe gave him to me." I sat there in stunned disbelief. These were the women my wife, Nora, had begun spending most of her time with. And if I'm being honest, I hadn't liked the change I was seeing in her even before this conversation. But now, hearing it firsthand, it all started making sense. There wasn't a single note of regret or introspection in their voices. Only entitlement, bitterness, and this strange pride in the wreckage they had left behind. It wasn't harmless venting or girls catching up. It was toxic, and they were drinking it down like wine. After they left, hours later, I waited. Then, calmly, I brought it up to Nora. I told her that what I overheard made me uncomfortable. That surrounding yourself with people who celebrate broken homes and affairs isn't just dangerous. It's infectious. I said, I don't think people who mock marriage and sleep with married men should be giving anyone relationship advice. Her reaction, explosive. She turned on me like I'd committed some unspeakable crime. "You were spying," she barked. "Do you even hear yourself? You've got no right to judge my friends." The wall went up instantly. Any chance for an open conversation vanished. She made it clear, I was the problem for listening. Not the fact that her friends were glorifying the destruction of families. That was the moment I realized. She couldn't see it. Or worse, she did and she didn't care. After that night, Nora began to change right in front of me. It was like she brought pieces of them back into our house every time she returned from one of their meetups. A sharp edge in her voice. A coldness in her stare. A tension in the air that hadn't been there before. She'd sit in silence for long stretches, almost like she was waiting for me to mess up. And when I didn't, she'd start fights over nothing. "You don't lead like a real man should," she said once, words I had never heard from her before. It was like someone had given her a script, and she was rehearsing it at my expense. Then came the night she stumbled in after midnight, reeking of alcohol. On a Tuesday. Nora was never a drinker, and she hated staying out late, especially on workdays. So I asked gently, "Are you okay? This isn't like you." And that's when she detonated. She screamed that I was trying to control her, that I was intimidated by her freedom. Then she said something that I still replay in my mind. "You're just trying to ruin my body by pushing for a baby. You want to trap me in motherhood while you get to keep living your life." I was too stunned to speak. That night was the turning point. Whatever connection we had was severed. She stopped talking to me unless necessary. Left for work without a word. Came home, walked straight to the bedroom. If I tried to start a conversation, she'd give me nothing. Silence had become our new language. And then came the morning I caught her by the closet, stuffing clothes into a small travel bag. It was barely dawn. I asked, "Where are you going?" She didn't look at me at first. Just kept folding and packing like it was any other day. Finally she said, "I'm going to stay with Mika for a while." "Why?" "Because this marriage isn't working, Leo. We need space. Time apart." She called it a break. Just 1 week. Said we both needed to think. But it didn't feel like space. Felt like the beginning of the end. Still I tried. I told her we could work on this. That no relationship was perfect. That we could try therapy, something we had never done. But she just shook her head and said, "I've already made up my mind." She walked out without a second glance. And something in me broke. I didn't go to work that day. Called in sick. Sat on the edge of the bed we used to share and replayed every moment, every shift, every red flag I had ignored. And I realized. She didn't trip into this decision. She was led into it. And the people guiding her weren't looking out for her marriage. They were cheering for its failure so they'd feel better about their own. 5 days passed. Filed for divorce. When the papers reached her, she messaged me. "You're bluffing." She thought it was a power move. A scare tactic. I replied simply, "No. I'm done." That evening I came home from work, drained and ready to fall into bed. And there she was. Standing in the living room. Eyes wide, full of panic. "I didn't think you'd actually do it," she said. She begged me not to go through with it. Pleaded for a second chance. But I was done with the games. I said, "You walking out of this house wasn't a wake-up call for me. It was closure." Later that night she sat beside me in the backyard. No yelling. No defense. Just silence, then a whisper. "It was Mika's idea. She told me to leave, to disappear for a week so you'd stop asking about having a baby. So you'd chase me." I looked at her. Then laughed. "That's who you're taking life advice from." I told her, "You're free now. Go thank your friends. Maybe they'll help you get through the divorce too." She cried. Begged. Said she didn't want to end up bitter and alone like them. But it was too late. Because if you're willing to hurt your husband just to win the approval of people who've destroyed their own lives, then you don't deserve the man who still tried to fight for you. The divorce wasn't quick. She kept reaching out. Begging. Calling late at night. Showing up randomly, hoping I'd change my mind. But I didn't. Not because I stopped loving her. But because I started loving myself more. Eventually the court finalized it. The marriage was legally over. I don't smile when I think about how things ended. I don't throw a party because I signed divorce papers. No one dreams of this ending. But I don't feel broken anymore. I feel free from a war I was fighting alone. If you're listening to this and going through something similar, let me tell you something. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for respect. For partnership. For someone who chooses you without letting outsiders tear you down. And if your partner invites poison into your home and calls it friendship, protect your peace. Because love should never come at the cost of your sanity. Thank you for listening.